society is making men hate women and women hate men. I see some of the shit that some of these men say, like Myron from Fresh and Fit or the whatever podcast. I don't like men like that at all. And I think that it doesn't reflect reality at all. As someone who is Jewish and does believe Israel has the right to exist, I never want to see innocent Palestinian civilians bombed. Not one. But the internet won't tell you that. They'll tell you that all Jews are bad and they have all the money and all the power. Really? Why aren't I a billionaire yet if I'm Jewish and I have all the access? The internet makes you see something that isn't there, and then it makes you angry towards that thing.
Before we continue any further, I would like to welcome all of our listeners to this episode and remind you all to please like, comment, share this episode with a friend. You know the whole spiel. It means more than you know. I have with me here today beautiful Miss Nicole Behnam. Beautiful, intelligent, funny, and amazing. All the positive attributes that I could think of, really. And many of you might recall I've had her on remotely when I was still doing these. Feels like
I know.
A different lifetime, to be honest.
I don't even remember what I said on that one. I feel like I've changed so much.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, it was a while back now. But I'm really happy to have you back on.
I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. A little background and introduction, just briefly, for those who haven't listened to that episode, which I recommend you do. Don't remember the number. I'll put it in the captions.
About me? Mm-hmm. So, I am also a podcaster. And I have a podcast rental studio called Paper Studios out here in LA. But I love interviewing. I've been doing it since I was really young. I was on red carpets when I was 24 years old, doing interviews at like the Oscars and the Golden Globes and all that. And while I was doing that, I realized that the conversations over there were so limiting because I was only allowed to ask questions about, you know, what was the movie premiere like, or who do you think's gonna win this award, or whatever. And I realized it was gonna take me a while at, you know, particular news outlets to move on up and be able to interview the biggest names in the world. But I still knew I liked conversations where I would get insight and perspective. And so I thought to myself, okay, who has that and how can I go interview them? So I started an online magazine at the time called Beyond the Interview. And I started interviewing up and coming talent. One of them was Andrew Schultz.
Oh,
Another
wow.
one, yeah. He blew up.
He's amazing.
He's hilarious.
Yeah.
And so it's been rewarding doing that and also watching the journeys of everyone else that I interviewed. Another thing that I did was I thought to myself, okay, who has insight and perspective? Because that's what I'm looking for when I do interviews. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, authors. So if you'll notice, I'm friends with a lot of authors. I'm friends with a lot of like thought leader types. And it's because I thought to myself, okay, who has the answers? But also I found that if you ask the right questions, sometimes anyone can have the right answers, you know? So
it's amazing that you've done that. It was almost like a warm up, the red carpet part of
it was a warm up, and I wasn't ready back then. I'm just so much better at asking questions now.
It comes with practice, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's not like listening is its own skill because a lot of us are just thinking about how we want to respond when people are talking. So that listening is a skill, and also knowing where you want to go in the interview. I don't think it's bad to have an agenda at all. You know, especially if it's like a noble agenda. It's like, oh wow, I love what this person's doing. I mean, a lot of people that we've talked about that we admire definitely have agendas and they're going to change the world.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
for sure. It kind of feels like awesome just to have that. Like sometimes have to pinch myself. I'm like, wow, this is great. Like I get to connect to so many people through this thing that I do, you know?
Yeah.
How long have you had your podcast for?
Like a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I also have to say, I was really lucky because when I started the podcast, I started with a 6-figure deal because I got into crypto. And so I
Okay.
had this whole, I don't know if you remember the app Clubhouse.
I do remember it. Yes. It like vanished.
Yeah, they messed up.
They were so popular.
I know.
Everybody was on it. That was actually before I decided to start social media. That was like right around the time I was
Really?
thinking about it. Yeah, because I had this account, like as a personal account, where I would post pictures, like 2 pictures a year when I would go on vacation. Because
Oh
I was
my
working in the
God.
corporate world, and they never said you can't have social media, but just because of the work that I did, I don't think it would have been like I don't think I could ever get hired
Wait,
there
what
again.
were you doing?
I was an auditor. I was auditing law firms.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, I was auditing law firms
Okay, wow.
in Canada.
How'd you pivot to this?
I literally just got up one day during COVID. It was like was it the last wave of lockdowns? Because in Canada, I think it was pretty bad in California too, but in Canada, it was like, they were just honestly fucking with us, it felt like, because they would shut us down, open up, shut us down, open up. And during another round of lockdowns, I was losing my mind and losing faith in the country that I believed in so much. Like, I worked so hard to be part of Canada, part of like the Western whatever situation we have happening here. And I was like, you know what? And cultural comedy started to become a thing around that time. And I was contemplating it, but I was like, I don't know if I want to do and it was my personal account.
Yeah.
Which is, I saw you post something about the importance of, if you're thinking of starting a social media, either blocking all of your friends or just at least starting a new account where
Oh
in the
my
beginning
God,
stages
yeah.
people can't see you.
Yeah.
And I've been recommending that to people left, right, and center because I didn't do that. And I, to date, sometimes when I post something, I'm like, oh, you know, this person that follows me from my elementary school. And then I have to snap out of it and be
Dude, me
like,
too. By the way, I have blown up on every platform. I mean, this is the thing. My personal account has not blown up the way my other accounts have. And you follow the other accounts, so you know the numbers are not the same.
mm-hmm.
Because my personal account is tied to everyone that I've known. And I think every post I'm like, well, what is this person that's known me from elementary school? And it's like, I don't even talk to them. So what am I doing? But it's such a common theme that like
you can't help it.
It stifles your creativity because you're thinking to yourself, well, what are these people going to think? And I'm just like imagining someone that I haven't talked to share it to someone else that I haven't talked to in years. And I'm like, oh my God. And then that stops me. And it's so dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I recommend to people always just start over. Those 1,000 followers that you currently have or whatever, like you can get that fairly quickly. Like don't worry about that. Just start over. Yeah. I didn't do that. So for me, I like dabbled into a little bit of fashion, and then I was like, I live in like the equivalent of Siberia, so fashion is going to be kind of hard to.
Wait, you were in Siberia?
Equivalent of Siberia in Canada.
Oh.
Yeah. The weather was just very comparable to what it is like in Siberia. Although I know a girl who actually does fashion, but she travels a lot. Anyway, I dabbled into fashion, but then I don't know, it just wasn't really resonating as much at that time because my personality wasn't there, if that makes sense. And then after a while, the videos weren't really doing well. And after a while, I started to make funny content, and that was like really hitting. Yeah. So
I love your funny content.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm at a place where I'm like trying to figure out which way to go, because I want to continue obviously making fun of things, but also I have this podcast, and the podcast sometimes is funny, sometimes it's more serious because it's a conversation. I never script them. I always just go into it and see what happens. But yeah, I don't know.
But isn't it funny that you think you have to choose? You don't. No, I don't think so at all. I love your serious content, and I love your skits, and I love when you're funny. I see you as everything, not one thing.
So you think just to keep going with
yeah, I think just keep going. You're everything.
Nicole Behnam said I'm everything. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I want to dive into the subjects of looks a little bit more because we chatted about that in the beginning.
Okay.
And I just think it's such an important topic.
It is.
How do you feel about, I guess, the culture that we have here where you are a little bit almost like you feel weird about saying that you care about your I care about my looks a lot. Luxury things, diamonds, botox, everything, you know? And I get flack for it online when I talk about it. Because
Really?
it's
What do
like,
people
well,
say?
looks aren't everything. Another, I don't know, like just stupid stuff, right? Like another shallow, you know, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll say this. I think people should just know that looks are only important in the sense that they're the first thing people see about you. So we know this. People make snap judgments on whether or not they want to talk to you, sometimes based on your looks. And for guys, a lot of it, I hear it's height, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that it's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, it is not the most important thing about you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what people are going to talk about at your funeral. It's not what people are going to remember about you. It's just the first thing that draws their attention. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, I don't think it's something we should be obsessing over. I think I was super inspired when you posted. I mean, I maybe you posted multiple times, but I saw when you were like, one of my hobbies is looking good, and it makes me feel good, and I like it.
Yeah. Makes me feel put together, makes me feel more confident.
Yeah, and when you said that, I felt like it just gave me permission to be like, you know what? No, I like looking good,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to apologize for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that I'm so many other things. Like I don't think that defines anything at all.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's the same for you, where you like looking good, but your identity is not wrapped up in the way that you look at all.
No, it brings everything together, I would say, right? Like your looks are sort of a reflection of almost even your like organization. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
you look put together, you project a certain vibe, like you
Yeah,
project
you
a
do.
certain energy.
You
So
do.
I feel like when you enter a room, you look put together, you feel good about yourself. Like my posture will be better if I'm wearing an outfit.
Me too. If I'm
that
wearing
I like.
heels,
If I'm wearing heels, I'm
it's
invincible.
over. It's over.
It's over.
Yeah.
Would you ever date a guy shorter than you? Oh, I don't know
Okay,
why
I'll
that
say
just
that.
came
Okay,
to
you know
mind.
what? I don't think that I could unless he had some kind of, because I think what we're looking for is presence.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people say masculinity, that too, but you want to feel protected.
Yes.
And I'm on the shorter side.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I was taller, if my opinion would change. I know a lot of tall girls that do date short guys. So it's different for everyone. I don't think that's I think a lot of girls say they want taller guys, but here's the truth. Let's just look at dating apps, for example. And I'm going to use height for men, and then I'm going to use age for women.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, men do want younger women. I once changed my age to be 5 years younger on a dating app, and let me tell you, it opened up a world of men that I was not seeing before.
Oh, wow.
I just switched it. I wanted to see, like, is it true that I'm not seeing, because guys want 30 and under, right? So, or sometimes guys even want younger than that. So,
not a shout out to Leonardo DiCaprio. I have to throw that out there.
Okay, so here's the thing. If a guy goes on a dating app and he's 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", some girls straight up want 6 feet and up. Or they put 5'11", like, okay, I'll go 1 inch shorter.
Mm-hmm. Is that what you do in dating apps? You select like the
Yeah, they give you options.
Okay.
And
so it's like a checklist of things, and then they filter it out. And
yeah, and then there's like prompts, and you can look at what people say about themselves. I mean, it hasn't been effective for me, but I'll say this. The majority of us who go on dating apps and type in that we want a guy who's over 6 feet, or for men, you know, a girl who's under a certain age. If we went out into the world and we vibed with someone that we just, it electrified us and it just made us feel alive, those numbers would go out the window.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't think about, oh, is this guy 6 feet? If he was standing in front of me and he was attractive and fun and a problem solver and, you know, was killing it in life, I wouldn't even care.
How many stories you hear about women being like, oh my God, he was like, he's so not my type, you know?
Oh my God,
But
every
there's
time.
just
Oh my God,
something-
every time.
Yeah.
And so, and again, I don't like the idea that a man is gonna grow on me. I always like feeling a little excited at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I do think that excitement comes in the beginning with someone that's not your type. It's happened to me so many times. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's not my type. And then as he keeps talking, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I feel so good right now.
Yeah.
Like this guy just has it and I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it's
you can't explain it.
Yeah, it's definitely not like his height or whatever.
Yeah, it's those things that we think about that we think matter, but at the end they don't really matter that much.
So I don't think anybody should get discouraged by what they see online. Because obviously there's a lot of shit that people say and there's a lot of groupthink, but none of it actually reflects reality. You know, there's a ton of 26% of women by the time they're this age are going to be single and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't even pay attention to statistics. I'm not a statistic.
There's a huge movement now online. You're right about that.
Yeah.
That talks about if a woman is single by the time I'm butchering this, but a lot of especially a lot of the carnivore bros, I think, you know, the carnivore
Oh my
bros?
God, yes.
Like
and I actually like that account, Carnivore Aurelius.
I do too. Yeah,
I like the account.
I don't think it's him who said it, but I think in that community I've heard that mentioned a couple of times that these you know, statistics of if a woman is single by the age of whatever 30 something, she will regret, you know, that kind of, or 40, I can't remember, something like that. And I'm like, I am a huge believer that whatever you believe for yourself is going to become your reality. So if you believe that you're going to be, you know, you're out of luck because you're 40 or 42, you're going to be out of luck.
Yeah.
You know, finding somebody. But if you're like, you know what, I'm a badass, I've built all this stuff, and I'm confident that I'll be able to find the right partner for myself at the right time. I really genuinely believe that it'll happen, you know?
Yeah, I believe it too. Also, every woman that I look up to, who quote unquote has it all, found love in their late 30s.
Yeah.
So I'm not even there yet.
Yeah.
And so I know.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I mean, I'm with you.
Yeah. How do you feel about the passion that's driven behind a lot of the specifically conservative movement online of get married and have kids? Just get married and have kids.
I think it's crazy. I think it's funny because conservatives insult so many people, and I bet deep in their souls they think that the people that they're insulting wouldn't even make good parents because they have such bad values, right? So it's very strange that they're preaching that every single person should have kids. Think about the amount of kids or the amount of adults who are still recovering from their childhood traumas. So not everyone is qualified to be parents, and we know that. So why are you saying that everyone should be parents when we have this many adults who look back on their childhoods and wish things were different and they were so traumatized and they're still not where they want to be? It's I think life is definitely worth living, and it's great to have kids, and it gives you a sense of purpose, and you don't die alone and all that. But if you make friends, you won't die alone. If you have a significant other, you won't die alone. If you immerse yourself in community in other ways, you won't die alone. So it's a little weird to see, you know what? It's a little weird to see anyone pushing any particular thing on everyone else. There's no one way of doing anything. And that's where people get lost, is they look to one political party or one public figure and one politician or whoever it is, and they put this person on a pedestal and follow everything they say. How can you?
Isn't that an interesting phenomenon?
Isn't it?
I always think about that, and I catch myself sometimes doing the same thing. Very rarely, because I don't really get like starstruck by anyone. I'm like, you're a person like I am, like you're a human. I actually was a little bit starstruck by Dr. Eric Weinstein. We were talking about him earlier, because there's just so much like depth and everything. I was more so just fascinated by the way he thinks, but I don't really get starstruck by people. I'm like, that's awesome that you've made it, and you did something interesting. Let's talk about it, kind of thing. But you develop like a level of respect for someone. You develop a level of, I guess, admiration, whatever that is, and you agree with a lot of opinions that person holds and expresses, and then you just by default think to yourself like, okay, well, if he or she thinks that way, then like that must be real. Like that must be the answer. That must be the truth.
And also, everything else that they say must be true too.
Yeah. It's like, no, they can make mistakes as well.
Yeah, look at your own parents. We all thought they were gods when we were kids, and then we grew up and we're like, wait a second, So no, you're 100% right about that. That's the problem, is that we put people on pedestals.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't.
Yeah.
That's what ruins everything. Or we either put people on pedestals or we make them the enemy. And by the way, that's how the internet wins. The internet wins and you become a puppet to the algorithms and the political parties. That's what's happening to everyone. Do you want to be a puppet or do you want to think for yourself? One of the most profound things, do you know who Naval Ravikant is?
No.
You're going to love him. He said it's impossible.
Like the name sounds familiar.
You probably know who he is. So he said, if you're a clear thinker, nothing is gonna align exactly with one political party or another. Like it's impossible. If you're a clear thinker, then there's some stuff you're gonna agree with the liberals and some stuff you're gonna agree with the conservatives. If you're not a clear thinker, you're just gonna be like, oh yeah, everything they say is right. How's that even true? Most people are fiscally conservative that I know are fiscally conservative and socially liberal. Most people that I know.
It's the extremes that get in the way, right?
I don't know why anyone would even want to be extreme.
I think it's convenient for your brain. Hello and welcome to the greatest, psychological podcast of all time. Literally, please don't quote me. I have no idea if that is true, but I feel like it's easier because then somebody else is almost thinking for you. Like you pick a side, and it's almost like a cult, right? You don't really question what anyone does that much in your side of whatever the spectrum whatever the side of the spectrum that you've picked for yourself, and it's easier to just be like, okay, well, this is my group and I'm doing whatever they're doing and I'm not questioning it. You don't really have to think that much, because to question ideas on both sides, to think about them, to discuss them, takes a lot of effort, right? And a lot of thinking. And was it Napoleon Hill who said, most people don't think and think and grow rich?
I don't know, but that sounds accurate.
It was a bit of it was a different, I guess, approach and a different subject, but it's true. Most people don't want to think. Most people are too busy, going to work and doing stuff that's taking up space in their mind. And to sit and analyze all these things is a lot. Are we going to be okay, do you think?
I think we're okay. Oh, you mean we as a collective society?
We as here, yeah.
I don't know if everyone's going to be okay, but if they stop putting people on pedestals, then I think they'll be okay.
Yeah. On both. There's just extremes on both sides. That's the thing. Most people I talk to, they're very reasonable and they question both sides really. And they agree that both extremes on both sides are extreme and unreasonable.
True.
I don't know if I've met anyone who is so far gone down the left I haven't met personally per se people who are really far down the right, but I know of them online. And I'm like, yeah, a lot of you are doing the exact same thing that this side is doing, but you just don't realize.
Oh yeah, like how there's wokeness on the right. Yeah. But I think the smartest people are actually not even paying attention to politics that much. They're just having fun and making money.
Yeah.
Hate to be so blunt, but I really believe that. And by the way, there's people who have money who are really unhappy. a lot of money who are really unhappy. So I'm not saying money is the answer, but I think financial freedom and the ability to, you know, feed your family and also have a ton of free time to be able to do what you actually want to do. I think when that's what your money is used for, then yeah, you'll be happy. If you're using your money to flex to other people that you have it, I think there's no joy in that.
But Nicole, what else am I supposed to do with my money? If not buy the most expensive things and show them to people? What do you mean? Do you have a bit of that side in you of like okay, let me actually like take you back.
Yeah.
And let's dive into this conversation because I love talking about it. Why do you think, I know this is a really deep like question that we could talk about probably for hours, but why is it in your view that some people have a lot of money and they're very unhappy, even if they worked for it, even if they're self-made, they're very unhappy, and then others seem to be like just happy no matter what?
I have a friend who passed away, who was, it was a guy and he was on the shorter side. And I remember he would talk to me about how he didn't feel like he didn't feel like he was masculine enough because of his height, but like he had presence, you know. The guy, his personality was actually very masculine, and he dated some of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. I wouldn't say that he was happy though. And when I thought about it, I'm like, what? He also was very wealthy. And I remember one time we were sitting down together and he's like, you know, this house, the cars, all this stuff that I have, it was all a fuck you for what I didn't have, which was the height. And so I think when your money is a fuck you, or it's something else, then you're not that happy. But when your money goes towards actual freedom and the freedom to spend time with your family, spend time with your kids, do fun things with your friends, the experiences that you buy, I think those people end up happier. Here's another one. I think people who have money, who are able to enjoy ordinary things, are way happier than anybody else. Like, if you're unable to enjoy ordinary things, like going outside and the sun hits your skin and you're just like, oh, I love this feeling.
Oh my God, I literally just had that experience and I was waiting for you. I was like, in
See?
Los Angeles, sun shines so much better, you know, and as the scent of urine is just like, because it smells like urine everywhere.
But you see, you're still able to appreciate the sun. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like these little things that I don't even want to say take for granted, that we just don't even pay attention to.
Right.
We don't let ourselves feel the joy of ordinary things. You know, I can hang out with my friends and we laugh together, and I'm trying to make it a practice to be like, I'm so happy that I have friends that I can laugh with, even one friend that I can laugh with.
Yeah.
That's the best thing in the world. That's the best thing in the world. So I think having money is great, but if you're able to enjoy the little, because otherwise we've seen people with money. I know billionaires who only feel a rush when they're banging prostitutes on yachts. Like, unfortunately, sorry to be blunt, but there's a lot of that. And you meet these people in Miami and LA, and you look at their lives and you're like, this is just not what I want. That's not what I want my money to be for. I don't care if I'm, you know, on a private jet all the time or whatever it is that they're doing. Because that's the other thing, is that you see a lot of people online with like the private jets and the luxury and this and that. Don't get me wrong. We love luxury.
We love private jets. I disagree with you on that. That's the goal. Yeah, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm happy on a private jet too, but I'm also happy off one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think that's what it is. It's like, if you're, here's another one. I know people who go on private jets and they never post about it. I think they're way happier than people who are wealth signaling, right? Because that's a lot of what it is. If you think about why we purchase certain brands, we're trying to fit in. We want people to like us. We want them to see the Van Cleef or the Cartier nail or whatever it is. And you see it. A lot of arms look the same in LA and Miami and around the world. A lot of arms are exactly the same.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just wealth signaling. You think you bought that because you like it? You think that's the nicest thing in the world that you could have bought for however many thousands of dollars? You could have gone on a crazy vacation with all that drip.
It's like that whole idea, you know the famous picture of Mark Zuckerberg and Warren Buffett, and it's like whatever, like 200, however many billions in a photo, and not a Gucci belt inside.
Oh yeah. No, exactly, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's the thing you notice sometimes people who don't have that much money are wearing, the most expensive clothing items or whatever, or jewelry. And so that's where I think we get lost, is when we use the money to signal to other people. Which, by the way, we do that with beauty too. It's like when I walk into a room, I want to talk to certain people. And I know if I look better, the chances are higher. That's probably why I want to look good. We say it's for ourselves. Not always that. I think we want a feeling of a sense of belonging and recognition. That's those are both really deep human needs. Why are we so embarrassed to say that?
Would you say, do you like nice things?
Yeah, I love nice things.
When you get them for yourself, what's the feeling that you have? Like, do you ever have to ask yourself, okay, why am I getting this? Is it?
Yeah, when I'm really honest with myself, sometimes it is also, okay, it is fashion, it is, oh my God, expression sometimes. Right. When I wear like a color, I want it to pop. If it's something that's like a brand name and it's really expensive, if I'm honest with myself, wealth signaling. If I'm really honest with myself, it's wealth signaling. By the way, I don't even see you wearing brand names. You look stunning.
Thank you.
You don't need anything.
Thank you.
But you want things.
I like nice things.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. I have a lot of nice stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it.
And I like cars. For me, like, the only cars that exist, I've made a video about that, are German luxury vehicles.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Rolls Royce is British, right?
I do.
Rolls-Royce.
By the way, I like nice cars too.
Right.
I want to drive nice cars.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't. But cars are a little different. I don't think when I think of cars, I don't think it's always signaling. I think sometimes people just really like cars the way they really like watches.
I was listening to a motivational speaker a while ago. Oh, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was like Abraham Hicks.
I love Abraham Hicks.
love Abraham
Wait, by
Hicks.
the way, we need to start sending each other reels. I feel like we enjoy the same stuff.
There's been a couple of times that you did not respond to my messages.
I didn't? I don't feel like I would ever not respond to you.
No, you're good. I sometimes get lost in the messages as well.
Oh, me too.
You know
yeah,
I mean?
I would
so
just double. I would just double message you.
I'm gonna start sending you reels for sure. Funny reels and motivational reels. It was Abraham Hicks. I'm 99% certain of it. And she was saying how, like, we think that the car is gonna make us happy, and it's like it's only gonna make you happy for like the afternoon that you bought it. And I remember listening to it as I was driving, and I'm like, this car makes me happy even when I think about it.
Oh, me too.
Like, I really love my car. I really love driving it. I love the experience of being in it and listening to music. And I'm like, I don't know if it comes from my culture, which you get zakat before you get food. You know what I mean? You save up.
I'm Persian, Diga.
You guys are very, very similar, actually.
I
very,
know.
very
I really
similar.
feel like
women are very similar.
Yeah, I feel like culturally we're very similar.
Very similar.
We all like
I have
nice
a lot
things.
of Persian friends in Canada.
Yeah. Just our values, the way we look at life, how we're feminine but also really empowered. You know what I mean?
100%. There's like this huge emphasis on like the way women are raised in our part of the world, which is confusing. I talked to Eric Weinstein about this yesterday. We're raised to be very independent, to go to school, to get the degree, to do whatever you need to do to be like independent and successful in your own way. And we're also raised to be really good wives and mothers. Like
Same,
there's that
same,
balance.
same. We think about both.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so many of my Persian friends are highly educated, but also wives and moms.
Also traditional at home, yeah. And I've had conflict with that because in my early 20s I was definitely like very corporate and very driven and very masculine.
Do you really think so?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you back then, so I couldn't tell you.
We used to butt heads with Alex like crazy at home. I used to compete with him. I think at my core, I'm probably a little
Wait,
too
your
much
husband?
on that side. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
We butted heads a lot because he would come home. I talked about this on numerous occasions. He would come home. He's a lawyer.
Yeah.
And he worked at a law firm, and it was like ridiculously stressful work every single day, right? And he would come home and would tell me about his day, and you know what I would do? I'd be like, my day, and then I would go into, and then it would just kill everything.
Yeah.
So it's, and I don't think it would have been that hard for me to balance it if I wasn't confused by what I'm supposed to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does
part
make
of
sense.
The world. Because I don't think there's that much confusion where I come from about that stuff. You just, you become all the things that you want to become. You have freedom to do it. There's freedom of opportunity. But there's no confusion about, like, do I want to be a good wife or a good mother? Like, that's just sort of by default what you do. Same with men. By default, for the most part, they're providers. And they take on that responsibility. No one argues about that.
I think men should always be providers. How about that? How about that?
Amen. Amen. Isn't it interesting that saying that
it makes people really angry?
It makes people really, really angry. Why is that?
I mean, you know what? I do believe that. I think if you're going to be in a heterosexual relationship, a majority of the time that's the way it should be for people to be happy. But again, going back to what I said before, there are some people who are happy outside of that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sure we vibe on that. Mm-hmm. We love that. I love a provider. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's other people who think differently. I just think people get upset about it for many reasons. I think it's harder to make money. So men are like, oh, they're entitled and blah, blah, blah. And then I think there's also women who, I don't want to say modern feminists, because if you really think about it, we are feminists technically. Like, I just think we should have equal rights. I don't think we're the same, but I think we should have equal rights. And now they've taken this word and made it mean something else.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm
right?
I'm like however many waves of feminism there were, but I'm like the second wave of feminism that fought for our ability, for you and I to do what we're doing today.
Yeah.
All for it. But the second it becomes this whole, like, I don't need no man, I can live my life without a man. It's like,
we need men.
We need men. We need each other. They need us.
And we need
them. Period.
Yeah.
For, harmonious life on planet Earth.
You know what else I've been noticing? I know there's this whole conversation about, can women and men just be friends? And actually they can.
I believe in that as well.
I really think they can. And society is making men hate women and women hate men. And when I say society, I'm talking about politics and I'm talking about the algorithms. Because if I look online and I see some of the shit that some of these men say, like Myron from Fresh and Fit or whatever, or the whatever podcast, I don't like men like that at all. And I think they're making, do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know if a lot of people
I think whatever I know. Okay. Like where they sit across from each other and like, is that the one?
Yeah.
I've seen clips from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And so I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm chronically online because of my work. So I'm always trying to see what's going on. Yeah. And so that's when I discovered all of this. Yeah. And what bothers me the most about it is that it doesn't reflect reality at all. Like, I look at you and you have a career and you have a husband who's a provider that you work with, and you're both also attractive. And I mean, I'm sure there's everyone has problems, but what I'm saying is it's very possible to be in a relationship as these things. Yes. And what these podcasts do is they paint a very different picture of what a man is and what a woman is and what a man believes and should believe and what a woman believes and what it is to be a high value male and a high value female, and here's the criteria. That criteria has nothing to do with whether or not your relationship is going to be successful. And that's why there's so many miserable people out there. When I used to watch that stuff, and I was really just curious, I've never been so angry in my life because I'm watching these men who clearly really hate women yell at OnlyFans girls who, I mean, if you want to do that with your life, I actually have no judgment on that.
No,
I think it's a lot, by the way, I think it's a lot better than prostitution. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of these girls were really in unsafe situations, and now at least there's a video, and they're behind a paywall or whatever.
Like if I had a friend who wanted to do it, I would try to talk her out of it, but I don't have judgment towards what they do. I do think, and this isn't something that I myself concluded, I've heard many people who have studied this extensively, who you would consider experts in this area, talk about how detrimental porn is for
100%.
Guys especially.
100%.
But who the fuck am I to sit and judge a woman for embarking on that journey and then now say that her life needs to be destroyed? Do you know what I mean? Like I just
yes,
who
exactly.
am I?
Yeah,
like,
same.
Yeah.
Same. And by the way, there was a point where like, you know, I would just be like, oh, that's horrible that they're doing that and blah blah. I don't know these women. I don't know their path. I don't know the story. I don't know what their parents did to them. I don't know if they were abused, molested. I don't really know anything. And I'm sitting there exercising my judgment, and men who are angry with women and want to call women whores and whatever they want to say, and they're going on there yelling at these girls. If you actually cared that women were doing OnlyFans and you wanted to put them on the right path, you wouldn't bring them on a podcast to humiliate them. There's no humanity in any of this. What we see on the internet, there is no humanity in any of this. There is no humanity in the Israel-Palestine arguments on either sides. And I'm Jewish, and I believe Israel has a right to exist. When I look online, I can't even believe what I'm seeing. And by the way, as someone who is Jewish and does believe Israel has the right to exist, and I love Israel, I never want to see innocent Palestinian civilians bombed. Yeah. Not one. Yeah. But the internet won't tell you that. They'll tell you that all Jews are bad and all Jews want to see you dead and they have all the money and all the power. Really? Why aren't I a billionaire yet if I'm Jewish and I have all the access? Where's my mansion?
Yeah, I agree with you.
So it's not. The internet makes you see something that isn't there, and then it makes you angry towards that thing. Yeah. And you're sitting there enraged. If you're a consumer of the internet, you are sitting there enraged about something. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Israel, Palestine, men versus women, whatever the subject is that has been co-opted by politics. Yes. And you're getting nowhere. You're not richer, you're not smarter, you're not hotter, you're not happier. You're not in the relationship that you want to be in. You don't have the friends that you want because you're sitting there on the computer, on your mobile phone, angry. And that's why I always say to people, follow the entrepreneurs. They're the problem solvers. Follow the funny creators. I love your content. I think you're great for the world.
Thank you.
You're a nice distraction towards all the bullshit that's there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I try my best to not create any further divisiveness. You
don't.
I mean? I try my best. Like I have this like balance I strive to maintain of touching on important subjects that matter, but not going too far down the enragement path. Like I don't want to enrage people. It's inevitable because some people are just looking for things to get offended by. Some people are just waking up and they're like, what could I see, get triggered by? I hate using that word.
I know, me too.
It's so overused.
Me too.
But what could I get triggered by and then like lash out all my anger? And they have this like screen that prevents them from having any consequences for their words, right? But I try my best to do that, and I appreciate you saying that. And I mentioned that even before this. I agree with you. I think we need to follow the entrepreneurs because governments don't solve problems. they create them.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs solve problems.
Yeah.
That's why I think we need to incentivize them. I think we need to support them. A real good government needs to do that, to support entrepreneurs in whichever way they can.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're fucked. Like,
it's true. It's
yeah.
facts.
Yeah. And that's why communism doesn't work. Because there's no such thing as entrepreneurship in that system, you know?
Yeah.
I really love this conversation. It's amazing. It's so deep. And we're going on such important subjects that, I don't know, I just feel like it's inevitable to get sucked into all this, for many people, like to all this hate, to all this BS that's out there. What are your thoughts on Andrew Tate then?
I think, like anyone else, he says a lot of good things and a lot of things I definitely don't agree with. And a lot of things that he says are very outrageous, and he knows that. And that's that when you cause controversy, that's what draws people in. And so once he got big, I also noticed him weighing into politics. By the way, what a great way to get people interested in you, by weighing in on all these topics. Great way to get people interested in you, but also like causes a lot of problems online. Anytime I see someone weighing into the Israel-Palestine thing, for example, like, I mean, he does tweet about it, and I think those specific tweets do cause anti-Semitism. Like, I don't know if it was him specifically, but I think he tweeted about that guy Nick Fuentes. Like apparently he's a Nazi.
Oh.
On Twitter.
Oh.
Yeah, and like his account. No, there was another guy whose account got banned, Lucas Gage or something, and so they get involved in these conversations because they know if they just take a side on something, they'll blow up too. You know? And so he does a really good job at staying relevant by being really controversial. And I think there are things he says that are definitely good, but there are more things that he says that are really harmful.
Yeah.
You know? Like, oh, you need to be with a much younger girl because blah, blah. And it's just like, the real world isn't like that at all. All of the people that I know that are in healthy, happy relationships would disagree with a lot of what he's saying.
100%.
What do you think of him?
I agree with you 100%. There's some stuff that he says that is like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And there's a lot of things that I've heard him say that are just so aggressive. I also saw a video that Ben Shapiro did on him that I thought was actually brilliant. He did like a whole analysis of his, character, career, whatever. And I guess a lot of Ben Shapiro's audience, because they're so heavily conservative, they also follow Andrew Tate, and they also saw value in following him, and they were asking him questions about him, and especially with all the stuff that's been going on with him and the arrests and all of that. I thought it was brilliant. It's like a 20-minute video, and it outlined, they did obviously very heavy research into his path and how he got to where he got to, and I question how he made his money. Like, I'm a firm believer that your past doesn't equal your future, but if you made your money the way he made his money, which is, my understanding is through like hiring women to basically do OnlyFans type of stuff, and then you preach these family values, and then there's also a lot of very disrespectful comments towards women, and this general attitude of like, well, as a guy I can like have sex with as many women as I can or as I want, but as a woman you're like, God forbid you cheat on me, you should be stoned to death, kind of thing. I've heard people talk about him saying that. I haven't heard him say the words stoned to death. I've heard, so this is hearsay or whatever, but I have seen videos of him say questionable things, very questionable things, specifically when it comes to like women, quite frankly, And he was on, is it George Janko? I don't want to butcher that name. Show.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and they were talking. I didn't see the whole interview. I saw a snippet, and I'm guilty of doing that as well. And I always tell my audience to like go listen to the full episode from the highlight reel that you're watching, because it's a highlight reel.
Yeah.
But he was talking about basically how, like, you know, is it a sin if I want to have 20 children and I can't do that with one woman, so I'm going to do it with as many women as I can? Like, is that a sin if my purpose is to have 20 kids? And they were talking about religion and the Bible, and George Janko, is that his name? He was like, spoiler alert, in the Bible, it's one man and one woman. Like, it is basically, you know, that's not God's plan for you. That's what you've planned for yourself, kind of thing. Like, from the perspective of like the Bible, which I thought was very interesting. So there's this continuous narrative of like, that I get from him, that men are more superior to women, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
But so after all that, did you notice how all of a sudden he started tweeting like haram and this and that? Like,
didn't he convert to Islam?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because guess what's cool in Islam? Multiple wives. Right? So, I mean, sure, you can do whatever you want. I like the idea of marriage being between a man and a woman, or I'm cool with, you know, whatever.
Me too. Yeah.
So, yeah, don't get it
two
twisted.
People.
Yeah, two people. I don't care.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I don't like that at all. And it's funny because now that you say that, I think the only types of women that would be okay with what Andrew Tate is preaching are the OnlyFans types that are sleeping with a bunch of men themselves. And not all of them are. Some OnlyFans girls don't even sleep around. But I'm just saying promiscuous women would allow for more promiscuous behavior on a man's part, right? Mm-hmm. So when you talk about these traditional women who are, you know, sweet, virgin, submissive, whatever it is that you're looking for, every woman that I know who is like that wants a man of honor, a man of God, a man who is loyal and faithful, and they're not looking for someone like Andrew Tate. So there's a lot of hypocrisy in what he says.
I also have a very serious question as to why specifically Romania. Romania borders the country I'm from, and we are known to have very beautiful women. So I just wonder. I wonder. That's speculation. It's allegedly. My alleged reason.
I have a friend who flew to Romania to interview Andrew Tate. He did. He had a 3-hour interview with Andrew Tate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'll send it to you.
Please do.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I try to not give him, like, if something is happening and I don't particularly feel like giving publicity to a person, because, you know, anything you talk about is publicity for that person, really, like, right? But then I was like, whatever, I'm just going to talk about, because I'm curious. Like, I'm curious to know your perspective on it.
Yeah.
Because I have some people who are like, I wouldn't say diehard fans of him, but they like him.
Yeah, I know people who are fans.
My concern with him also is that he is an example for many young men.
Yeah, well, that's the other problem, right? It's like, who are we looking up to?
Yeah.
And who are we electing? It's just like, and that's the problem. It's like, it's exactly what I said. Andrew Tate's on a pedestal. Politicians are on a pedestal. All these people are on pedestals. They're not all the examples that we have in this world of what a good life is. Mm-hmm. There are people that are completely anonymous who are super happy, who would be amazing role models for all of us. Mm-hmm. We just don't know them. They don't have 1 million followers or however many followers.
Yeah.
10 million followers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what to do about it. I don't think that the people that are popular are necessarily the best examples for happiness or whatever it is you're trying to achieve.
Some of them tend to be, and some of them are just, exactly. Sometimes you're like, really? How did you? Well, in that video by Ben Shapiro, he was also explaining how he got so famous. That's something that even Jordan Peterson, I saw him talk about that. Which, by the way, Jordan Peterson to me is a really great example. Like, I think he's
Oh,
phenomenal.
you mean he like a good example of what a good man is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the stuff that he puts out, like his thought process, his, you know, he's like the Dostoevsky of the Western world of our time, and I like him a lot.
Yeah.
But I remember him talking about, like, I just can't figure out how he got so famous. And then in that video with Ben Shapiro, when he was doing like the analysis of him, apparently, and it wasn't him even who was doing the analysis. Coffeezilla, is that the
Oh,
name?
Coffeezilla?
Yeah. He did a whole video about him too, analyzing how he got so famous. And apparently
About Jordan?
about
Tate?
Apparently he has that university that he, like, people sign up for or whatever.
Tate University?
Yeah. And part of the requirement, or one of the requirements, is that you share his videos on your socials. That was like the part of the requirements, I guess, for you to
Actually, genius. Really great marketing
genius.
tactic.
It's like a pyramid that just keeps on pyramiding, you know, all over the internet.
Yeah,
it's a really great marketing tactic.
It's you can learn from people even if you disagree with them.
There you go. Would you do something like that?
Now I would, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I always wanted to have a cult following because I think I have better values than some other people.
Yeah. I think there are a couple of people I know that I think absolutely would be a great addition to, like, the world of public figures and fame. I mean, you're already a public figure, but I think that
I don't feel like it. That's the thing, is that I never went for it the way that I should have, and now I'm getting more comfortable with the idea. Like, I just never went for it. And everyone in my life is like, Nicole, you should do this. You have this resource, you have that. And I'm like, oh, you know.
What was the reason that you never went for it?
I told you before, but I think I was so conflicted with my own identity and what I thought I was supposed to be. And so, you know, as there's all these like culture wars and whatever, I was like, okay, if I put myself out there as a public figure who's like thriving in her career, then I'm going to look like the type of woman who doesn't want to be someone's wife. And so that was just this insecurity in my head. So I'm like, let me just downplay everything that I'm doing. And also, when I put out reels for my podcast, let me just post reels of my guests and not of me talking. And in fact, when I do the podcast, let me not be so opinionated and not share too much of what I think, and I'll just make it more about the guest. And that was a disservice to me because
you have this thing inside of your head that's really great.
Thank you.
Like it's
Thank
good.
you.
I like it. The ideas, the depth that you go into. I'm gonna like challenge you now.
That's what I want. That's why I wanted us to be friends.
Because you need to do it. You need to.
I know I'm going to.
Because there's so many people who.
Will you join my cult?
Hey, I'm already in it. Hello. We'll organize like cult parties. Just kidding. Well, actually, we should.
No.
Retreats. We'll call them retreats.
Wait, didn't you do a retreat?
I was supposed to, but it got canceled.
Okay, we should talk after. Because
yeah.
I'm telling you.
It was a whole thing. But we should definitely do retreats.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think what you have to offer is a very reasonable approach to all of this. Like your balance of badass, feminine, get shit done, also be like you just have it in you, and I think that it'll be a great thing for many young women out there, because there's a lot of young women who are struggling. I myself sometimes I'm like, shit, like this is hard, you know what I mean?
No, same, but that's why I love your content. That's why I love your content, because I feel like you do all these things and you're so honest about who you are.
Thank you.
You know, and so that's great.
Yeah.
And by the way, we haven't talked about this yet, but I'm a firm believer in women are trained to have scarcity mentality and compete with each other for jobs, opportunities, men, in a way that men aren't. So once I figured this out, my entire worldview changed, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go out of my way to find women who are supportive and amazing and don't see the world in that way.
Same.
And to pass that on, because I remember what it was like when I thought everyone's jealous of everyone else. And, you know, if this girl has that, then that means I can't have it. And that was all bullshit because men don't do that.
No.
You know, it's like an example I like to give is when you're young and you have a boyfriend and you break up, now he's your ex-boyfriend, he's talking to someone else. Immediately, all your friends are trying to comfort you and be like, babe, she's not even that cute. Don't worry about it. You're cuter than her. What does that even mean? That actually doesn't mean anything. Again, looks aren't everything.
Mm-hmm.
We have all been left for someone that isn't conventionally as attractive. It doesn't mean anything. Maybe they just vibe.
Yeah.
But then it puts this thing in our heads that like, oh my God, we're in competition with someone else.
Yeah.
And men benefit from that too.
Yeah.
Oh my God, of course. They benefit the most.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes guys will even tell a girl like, you know, you'll be out and you'll be like, oh, that girl is so beautiful. And they'll try to remind you, oh, well, you're prettier than her. And you don't realize that they just created a competition in your head that wasn't even there. And that you both didn't agree to. You don't know this girl. Now all of a sudden you're in a competition with her. And that's what happens. Scarcity of opportunity, scarcity of men, scarcity of jobs.
Scarcity of men is a real thing, especially in my culture.
Oh, like, yeah. Oh, my God. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
In my culture, dude, Persian girls in this city, I mean, some of them don't care. I personally, I will date outside of my community. I just want to be with a good person.
Yeah.
But I see the ones that are in it that are competing with their own friends to get a guy. Dude, like, your whole existence is now miserable.
Yeah.
Because even when you get him, now you're worried about what everyone else is going to think, and if that girl's going to flirt with your husband, or if that girl married better than you. And it's just like, I have no respect for any of that.
No.
And I want everyone to be pulled out. I don't know if your culture is like that, but it's just so...
Yeah, we have, and it goes back to even something that's like deeper, or not deeper, sorry, statistically speaking, for the longest time. There's even a really famous song in Russian that literally says, statistics say that for 10 women, there's 9 men. There's a song that says that.
Can you... Yeah, say it.
По статистике... На 10 девчонок, по статистике 9 ребят. So it was like engraved in us. And we do, like, we draw borders, unfortunately, every 20 to 30 years there, which causes men to literally, like, women outpopulate men, you know, which is super unfortunate. And it's a little bit more evened out now in some parts. In some parts, it's getting worse. But it's always been this thing, and there are so many gorgeous women there, and they're great wives, they're intelligent, they're, you know, so I remember, like, when I moved to Canada, my first reaction was like, oh, damn, I think I'm gonna be okay, because, like, there's so many men from all over the world, and, you know, but...
See what happens when you leave your bubble?
Yeah.
See what happens when you leave the internet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a thing, and like women will go. I've been fortunate enough, like the way my mom raised me, the number one rule she always told me is like jealousy is evil. You need to train yourself to get inspired by people. Like my mom would actually give me so much shit if she ever caught me when I was little. Like I remember those moments, caught me in a situation where I was like, oh, why don't I have that? Like she would actually like, I would.
That's so powerful, teaching your kid that jealousy is actually just inspiration. Mm-hmm. Even if you think you're jealous of someone you don't like or you don't think highly of, why do they have something that I don't have? That's, by the way, you could get inspired by that too. Someone that you don't think that highly of, and you should think highly of yourself, someone that you don't think that highly of had an easier time getting something, that means it's possible for you.
Yeah. I can proudly say that inspiration equals being happy for somebody. And when you're happy for somebody, you will attract, you know, so many great things into your life because the energy that or the feeling that you're feeling is positive, you know? So I'm forever grateful to my mom for giving me shit for being jealous, like forever. Because I genuinely am not a jealous person.
No, you're really not. I always got that from you.
I'll look at somebody who has, like, I genuinely will feel happy for them. Be like, oh my God, how'd you get that? Like, Or if somebody achieved something that I like or I look up to, or I'll be like, how'd you do it? Like, teach me, you know what I mean? And that's, I think, such a powerful shift in so many people that needs to happen. Because if you, even with social media, like if you go on social media, I've said this so many times, and you find yourself feeling negative and wishing that you were on the trip that whatever Sweet Pea 1967 took, you know?
Yeah.
If you find yourself in this thought process of like, oh, why am I not there? Like, why am I not in Maldives? Oh my God, all these influencers. Just turn it off, shut it down, put your
Oh
phone
yeah,
away.
mute it
You know?
even. You don't
Mute
have to.
it,
You don't
yeah.
even have to see that.
But what I do on social media is get a lot of inspiration. I'm like, wow, okay, this person is apparently living a really great lifestyle. I wonder what they did to do that. Like, I wonder what the, you know what I mean? And then you get into a whole different mindset that's like more open and receptive to things.
But there's also the fact that social media doesn't actually reflect reality
100%. We were just talking about that. I'm trying to be very mindful for people not to look at me and my husband and think to themselves like, oh, what a perfect couple.
I mean, the other thing is you guys are you're so good looking too, you know? So it's like optically that's there as well.
Thank you.
In what way do you think that you're not, in what do you think people would be surprised to know about your relationship?
That we have problems, that we fight, which is not, it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
By the way,
that happens. That's the most normal thing.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get that straight.
And that's another thing I think people don't realize is relationships are work. No matter how in love you could be with somebody, no matter how perfect everything may be, they're work, and you need to put in work. Because I think people have this misconception of like, okay, well, you get into a relationship, you get married, and then it's just going to somehow function on its own. No, it won't. You have to put in work into yourself first and foremost, and into the relationship, you know, which is why you have to give her flowers, even if you've been together for as long as you have been together, you know. But yeah, like, I mean, I mentioned earlier, we almost got divorced on numerous occasions. I'm very fiery. So for me, if something is going down, I'm like, this is it. Like, we need to drop. Like, I have that side in me that I'm working on in every area of life. Like, I'll have like an itch to be like, I want to move to a different city.
Okay, wait though.
Yeah.
The fiery thing. Because I actually think that the fiery thing is very attractive, especially to men, because it creates this heat and tension that isn't there when someone is too passive or submissive. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, don't you feel like it kind of increases that in the relationship? Because when you actually do decide like, hey, you know what, we're going to work this out and not get divorced, it kind of bonds you.
Yeah. And maybe it motivates them. I don't know. I'll have to ask.
Yeah, I'm actually curious. We need to ask him.
But I wonder if it like motivates them as well.
I think it does. And by the way, that's not to say that it means you're difficult. I don't think that means that. Just to clarify, I don't think fiery always means difficult. Well, just because I know some people, because I'm not talking about toxicity.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I'd like to believe I'm not toxic. I don't know.
You don't seem it, but
yeah.
But I don't think it's that. I just think a little spice.
Yeah.
You know, and Russian women are like that. Spice. Persian women are like that. I mean, Persian women and Russian women are literally like. Yeah, we're besties. We really need to start a.
We do.
And we need to pull the American girls. They need some culture. They do. They need some culture.
I love that. What's the worst dating experience you've ever had?
This is actually a crazy story. Like an actual date.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm 25, and this guy picks me up, and the only reason I'm going to tell you what his car is because what he says after. He picks me up in a G-Wagon, AMG. And the second he gets to my house, he's like, by the way, my drop top Bentley's in the shop. Otherwise, I would have picked you up with that, which was like highly insecure. Whatever.
A flag of the color of your dress just went up.
Yes. And also, before the date, he called me to let me know which types of makeup he liked and didn't like.
And you went on a date?
I mean, I was 25. Okay, I think when you're young,
You're like, maybe
yeah, you're not even familiar with all the red flags. You're just like, well, that was weird.
Yeah.
But you just want it to work, especially like, he was a good-looking guy. He was very successful. And so before we went out, he's like, let's go pregame at my house. And I like barely drink. I still barely drink. And we went to his house, and he just wanted to show me that he lived in the flats of Beverly Hills. He had a really nice house. And he's like, let me give you the grand tour. And, you know, we did a tour of the house. There was a his and hers closet. So at that point, I'm like, all right, this isn't so bad.
Maybe the flag could be colored like a little bit into the green.
Anyway, then we go, we drink a little bit. We went to a restaurant here in LA, and as we're sitting waiting for the food, he goes, you know what? We don't have to wait for shit. I'm like, okay. And he takes me to the kitchen of this restaurant. And he goes, what kind of tacos do you want? What kind of steak do you want? Rare or medium? I'm like, medium. And he goes, all right, we'll have some steak tacos, rare for me, medium for her. And the entire kitchen staff just stops what they're doing and starts making food for us. And he takes out a wad of $100 bills and starts passing it out to them. And my eyes are just like, and he looks at me and he goes, what? They work hard too. Why should I be the only rich one? Why should I be the only one making money like this? And I'm just like, okay.
What did he do for a living?
He was a lawyer. Very successful lawyer to this day. Very successful lawyer. And then the manager of the restaurant walks into the kitchen, and I thought we were going to get in trouble because he's giving all this money to the kitchen staff, and none of it's going to the restaurant. But then they hug, and I'm like, okay, they know each other.
This whole time you're just like standing there.
Yeah.
What the hell's
Then
happening?
he goes to the manager and he goes, hey, you got that good stuff? I'm like scared to go on with this story. But yeah, so the guy comes back. He brings back a matchbox. He paid him like $700. At first he was like, no, I don't have anything. And he was like giving him a lot of money. And so he comes back with a box of matches, opens it. There's obviously cocaine in it. Mm-hmm. And he just puts some on his hand and just goes for it, and then goes,
that was your first date?
Yeah. And then he goes, yeah. And I'm just watching it, and I don't even know how to process this.
Right. That's a first date.
Yeah, and then he goes, listen, when you're with me, you can have whatever you want. No limits, baby. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, I couldn't even understand what was happening. I started getting insecure. I'm like, why does he think it's okay to do this in front of me? Do I seem like the type of girl that would ever do any of this?
You just started to
and I was just so confused. And I'll never forget, he looked over at me when he realized that I wasn't that type of girl, and he goes, you know, no one's gonna believe them when you tell them about this. And the next day after the date, he called me and he goes, hey, I hope you had a good time last night. I just realized I probably should have made you sign an NDA. And
to go on a date? Imagine you have to sign an NDA
because look what he did on the date.
Yeah.
You know?
But like,
this
is some LA shit right there. Like,
only
in Los Angeles, California.
So listen to this. So I started telling the story without even saying his name. And so many girls were like, are you talking about? And it was crazy.
Oh.
This was something this guy did.
Wow.
And I mean, I heard a lot worse stuff than that. But again, these are the things that you get in cities like LA and Miami, that I don't think it's the best. I
Mm.
don't think it really aligns with,
Right. The
you
values.
know? Yeah, and I don't care if people have like experimented with stuff
Right.
here and there. I'm not making a judgment
Yeah,
call.
yeah, yeah.
But this was clearly this guy's lifestyle.
Right, yeah.
And I've
If
heard
he
and
does that on the first date
yeah,
as
yeah.
a yeah.
And so it makes me sad that like that this is a thing.
Mm.
And again, I don't think people who are like that are actually that happy. Because why do you need to have that kind of experience to give you a rush?
Yeah.
You know, it's like the same people, like the people who are obsessed with pornography. They start needing really weird stuff. Like missionary position is not enough for these people. Like, I'm telling you. And I like
Missionary position is pretty boring. That's the only thing you do.
Yeah, I mean, you're married. You can have fun. Do your thing.
I know what you mean.
But like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
still not the worst.
Yeah.
You know. So I just think a return to normalcy
Would be kind of nice.
Yeah, it would be kind of nice. And so I like to stay
Some norms.
in the normal zones.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like you said, you walked outside and the sun hit your skin, and you're like,
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Oh wow. We are at our time, but I want to ask you maybe like some advice that you can give to young women out there who are maybe struggling a little bit with not even their identity, but just this situation of like, I don't know if I want to be a good wife, I want to pursue a career, I want to do the, how do I balance all those things?
I would say be really curious about paths that a diverse array of women have taken. And don't put any of them higher than another one. You know what I mean? Like, I take advice from Sarah Blakely, who I look up to. I also will take advice from someone like Serena Williams. I'll also take advice from someone like Jennifer Garner. Yeah. I'll also take advice from Brene Brown. I'll also look, you know what I mean? There are different women I look to. And by the way, it doesn't have to be women. I have to say, one of the reasons I think I got ahead in certain fields is because I looked up to a lot of men. And a lot of men are my mentors. And I know sometimes women hesitate because they, I think
they don't know.
Right? Yeah, or like they don't get or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of men out there who do want to help you. It's not, again, men are not the devil.
No.
I honestly,
they're awesome.
Yeah. The person who has helped me the most in my life and career up until now is Chris Voss, the FBI negotiator. And I learned how to negotiate, and every badass thing that I do, I'm very inspired by the things that I've learned from him. And so don't limit yourself. I think the reason I started with women is because a lot of women just think there's one way of living, and they're like, I want her life. I want her life. You don't know what your life's going to look like, and it's probably not going to look like that woman's, but she probably has a lot of insight, and so do a lot of other people. And so look to a lot of people. Don't think that your life is going to be modeled after one person. It isn't. Yeah. You are so different than everyone else. Yeah. And that's a good thing. Yeah. So I think that's what I would say. Yeah. Really, that's just me. I wish someone said this to me when I was younger, because I was so limited in the way I saw things and who I looked up to. It's not one way. So
I love that. We're going to start a petition online for Nicole to put all of this great stuff out there as much as she can on her socials. And also remember to look good and put an effort in yourself. That's what I would add to that.
Look good, put an effort. And then once you do that and you feel like you look good, don't think about it anymore, because you're so many other things besides the way you look. That's just what I want to add to that.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for
I appreciate it. And thank you to our wonderful listeners for tuning into this episode. I will see you next week.